Hello, this is Sarah, and for this video I will be discussing the 7th house, the sign Libra, and the planet Venus. In the stages of life, the 6th house explains how one works, and after the 5th, grounds us and brings a more practical or worldly slant to the way in which we see the world and ourselves. But after the 6th comes the 7th. And in the 7th house, or also known as the descendant, we're basically taking what we learned from the 6th house, where we learn to better ourselves and apply it, and then in the 7th house, or also known as the descendant, we're basically taking what we learned from the 6th house, where we learn to better ourselves, and then applying it in relationships and partnerships. So it's the next step from the 6th house. So once you've become a little more independent, you've worked for yourself, then you share that knowledge and that experience with a partner, or that's how we have marriages and contracts, and that is the 7th house. 7th house is traditionally the house of marriage, and it is where we learn basically that nothing can exist without others. Not one cannot exist without another. And this house corresponds to the ages of about 30 to 35. And this is really the house where we learn about really polarities. I will be talking about polarities and like the paradoxes, ideas in opposition in this video a lot. And this is really the house where that comes into play. It's kind of where we get the idea of, you can't have evil without good, you can't have good without evil. You need both extremes in order to exist and for each other to exist. What about cohabitation and just partnerships? And we haven't gotten to that yet. Because the houses preceding the 7th house are what are termed the personal houses. And they are personal in that they solely correspond to the individual and not necessarily other people in an individual's life. And we had the 4th house with the mother, but this is when we start really seeing ourselves or seeing other aspects of society, of our environments, and relating it to other people. So it's a bit different. And this house, the 7th house, is opposite the 1st house, or the ascendant. And while the ascendant describes our outward personalities, the descendant is supposed to describe the personalities, or the personality in which we will look for when seeking a partner, or how we approach relationships with others. So this house, like I said, centers on the awareness of others. And this house not only is concerned with love relationships and how we see our partners, but also the opposite with how we view our worst enemies. And the ascendant or 1st house indicates how we view ourselves, as I said, or how we appear to others. And so the descendant or 7th house plays basically the same role, only on a more subconscious or unconscious level. I said in a previous video that the last 6 houses are kind of the higher modes of the first 6. And this goes along with the 1st house and the 7th. The 7th is when this all starts. So it's kind of the beginning of kind of this knowing a little more than we do, because we're just building on each house as we go. Because in the 7th house, we start to be able to see, or at least it indicates where we are more aware of ourselves and how others view us. It has been said that the descendant corresponds to our romantic partners because who we are attracted to exhibit qualities and characteristics that we ourselves possess, and a partner is kind of a way for the individual to experience the parts of himself or herself that are sometimes hidden. So the unconscious or the subconscious. So we don't really realize we have them. We may have glimpses of them, but they're all qualities that we ourselves have. And it's kind of like living vicariously as another part of yourself, but you're still you. It's just a little more overt. And this principle also points out why the 7th house includes our enemies. Like I said earlier, for example, if you were to imagine or think about a person you feel you truly dislike, and the qualities for which you dislike this person, you'd probably realize that those qualities that you dislike so much, you probably possess yourself to maybe not the same degree, but at least a comparable degree. And this represents just a great polarity or paradox within this house, but also a general balance in regards to one's personalities. And you have to have the bad with the good and the good with the bad. And balancing one's inner self with outer self is what this house is all about. It's much like the zodiac sign Libra, which of course is closely related to the 7th house. And in fact, the definition of this sign is odd balance. So this goes great with the 7th house, of course. And Libra is a cardinal masculine air sign. So as an air sign, it represents idealistic thoughts and principles. So there's not only balance within relationships, but also balance of emotions, which is what the sign's glyph represents, and it also rules over in human anatomy. Now, the scale used in balancing objects is another symbol of this sign, and the word Libra is Latin for scale. And the position of the sign in the very middle of the zodiac is indicative of balance and symmetry too. Libra marks the connecting line between the two halves of the celestial sphere, and it maintains equal space with Aries on either side. And the color associated with this sign is green, and its musical note is F sharp or G flat. Like the 7th house, planets positioned in Libra will exhibit a quality of fairness and justice within their own energies, as well as conditions in which they may handle and maintain relationships with others. And with all of this balance and idealistic beauty in the sign, it is no surprise that those with Libra as a strong influence in their natal chart will often be viewed by others as attractive, charming, and just overall rather refined in manner. They have a great presence about them. They just seem higher, you could say. And even though Libra is a sign that tends to focus on the partners of individuals, of themselves, it is an air sign. So therefore it possesses that kind of aloof, detached, or easygoing nature that is commonly attributed to other air signs. And this sign, it represents fairness and justice, and it tends to know it too. So Libra can sometimes be narcissistic and demanding of admiration from others. And it's kind of like, because those with strong Libras tend to think so highly of themselves, they can often fall prey to manipulation by others just due to their own vanity. But this sign can still easily empathize with others due to their own need for partnerships and other people. So Librans are frequently considered very conscientious of others' emotions. They have the balancing of emotions in the glyph, and that's how they express themselves. In Libra in the 7th house, they possess many opposites and seemingly clashing ideals in its makeup. But in astrology, opposites are not necessarily indicative of opposing forces, but can be seen as balancing forces as well. And Libra is a sign that can find beauty or quest for beauty in all things. And this is a masculine sign, but its ruling planet is Venus, which is the epitome of femininity, which adds to the balance I mentioned earlier, just inherent between masculine and feminine traits present in the masculine sign Libra. And the planet Venus, so named for the Roman goddess of love, Venus, represents all things feminine in our natures. And this planet's glyph is said to symbolize the hand mirror of the goddess Venus, and the hand mirror also plays into the kind of vain and narcissistic tendencies of this ruling planet sign, Libra. And Venus is also the traditional ruler of the sign Taurus, and considers itself with material possessions as well as beauty. So it's kind of an superficial planet, one could say. And the domains of subjects which fall into this planet are they're not all entirely superficial in nature. This planet is also a representative of love, art, sex, and relationships, much like Libra in the 7th house. And as the feminine planet of all feminine planets, Venus is soft, it's comfortable and attractive, so it is usually a very positive planet when in aspect with other planets and just positioned in a birth chart. And a person's Venus acts much in the same way the 7th house and Libra acts in a chart. It's kind of by describing the ways in which one's relationships or the ways in which one deals with matters of the heart. And in relation to love and beauty, this planet can extend the idealistic natures of us all. Or if badly aspected, it could inhibit our idealism or our positiveness. Such as with absolutely everything, there are two sides to this planet and its energies. But in the end, there's always balance and good intentions. You're just guiding the forces of the universe. That's just how the universe works. So with that thought, this is the end of this video. Thank you very much for watching, and make sure to keep a lookout for my next video, which will be on the 8th house, Scorpio, and Pluto.